right, what we're going to do, we're going to give our top 4 playoff prediction for the 2023-2024 year. Same way as the college football playoff reveal show. Give our teams, give them why. Starting at number 4, Brendan, let's hear it. Who do you have at number 4?
First, I just want to put props to Harrison on this for this amazing graphic and the way that it's just going to slide right in there. Because so I can't do this, and what are you doing? There we go. But he can. So at number 4 in the 2023 college football playoff, I have a team out of the ACC that nobody's going to guess what I'm about to say. From the first ever college football playoff, the Florida State Seminoles.
Boom! Wow. Bang! That's bold. That's bold. It's June, and we're already making some hot takes here. Brendan, why did they make the playoff?
So I love Mike Norvell as a coach. I think he's a great coach. Even at Memphis, they led them to what did they win? 10 games or 11 games in the American, which doesn't count, but got promoted over to Florida State in the lower tier ACC. But anyway, I think he's a really good coach. I think he coaches a great team. They've got a good squad coming back. Jordan Travis is a great quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. There's a lot of haters out there. I think he's that dog. He runs. He's a lot better thrower than people give him credit for. He hasn't had a lot of weapons out there, really. But I believe that this is Florida State's year to get back into it. Being in the ACC, they have a lighter schedule than most powerhouse conferences, SEC. But really, it comes down to a couple games throughout the year, but they have to beat LSU. First game is the first thing that I'll say. And I know that there's a lot of hype behind LSU, but I think that Florida State, if they win that game, pending they win that game, that they'll take that momentum and go the rest of the way. I don't think they're going to be undefeated by any means. I think that they lose to Clemson in the regular season at Clemson, but I think they get revenge in the conference championship and beat them probably what would that be, 12-1? Like a 12-1 team this year, and that conference championship really means a lot in this 14 playoff, as it always does. And I think they're going to get in right there as the 4th seed.
Man, that's bold.
How do you go against that? I don't know how you could.
I just look. I'm a believer in Florida State.
Travis.
They're making progress, but I don't believe that much.
I will say they've got a 3-back committee that's really good, also really underrated. I don't even remember their names, but after watching last year,
I will give them credit too. They have a guy that's about 6'7".
Oh, he's
as
nasty.
A wideout, and he's filthy.
He's not even good, but he's so big that he's Calvin Johnson.
I only remember the Louisville game in which they kind of came back and won, and he balled out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of a cheat code.
They did win that game. I had money on that, and it was right at the end too. Yeah. And then I lost it all in the next game, but that's okay. on a buzzer beater touchdown.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
It was Syracuse.
All right, that's hot take. I love it. Starting off bold. We'll see. All right, at number 4, this may shock everybody, but I have a team that nobody would really expect it for, but I just see them slipping up. I'm going with the Bulldogs.
Ooh.
Dude, I think they make the college football playoff, but I will say this. I think they slip up. I think they slip up at one point in the year, and the reason I say that is because it's a brand new quarterback. Even though he's a junior, redshirt junior, it's a new quarterback with a new offensive coordinator. And those two don't really mix that well. Now, granted, Georgia's defense will be able to carry them a long way. Sure. But I think the combination of a new quarterback with a new offensive coordinator is bound to cause at least one slip up.
Stinkalicious is what it is.
Yeah. And so I don't want to dive too much into this and give away some of my next picks, but I kind of have a rhyme and reason why they're still at 4. So I'm not going to foreshadow into my next pick, but I will just leave it at that. I still think Georgia's a really good team. I think they're going to dominate most of their games. They could sleepwalk through their schedule and end up winning. That's why I still have them in the college football playoff. But I think with the new offensive regime and a new quarterback, there's going to be one slip up that happens. It just statistically is more likely than not. So Georgia Bulldogs coming in at number 4, they still inch out some big name teams to get in number 4. Brendan, number 3 for your playoff spot. Let me hear it.
I will say Georgia does have a, like literally maybe one of the easiest schedules.
It's insane. It is the easiest in the SEC.
It's the easiest in the SEC by far, but they only have really, in my opinion, one game where they could slip up here, and it's gonna be a ruckus crowd up there by the river, and that's why I have this team coming in at number 3, because Georgia's gonna lose to this team, but I have the Tennessee Volunteers.
Nice. Brendan's coming out of left field with these picks, man.
Get out of here. Well, kind of right field, I guess.
Okay, so granted, I love the Vols, but to keep my bias out of it and knowing that you would more than likely put the Vols in your bracket, I'm leaving them out. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm a huge believer in the Vols.
Well, no one can stop the offense. And I don't care what people say. Hendon Hooker was fantastic. And people don't believe in Joe Milton, but putting a stat lineup of coming in the third or fourth quarter of like 6 games, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, he has the same receiving core that he had in the bowl game when he started, his second game starting. Mm-hmm. And he's just an athletic freak. He's got the biggest arm in college football. And you're not slowing down that offense. We're getting all 3 running backs back from last year. You're not going to stop the offense. And the reason I have him here and the reason that they take this step is because statistically, maybe the worst pass defense ever last year Tennessee had. And just based off of default by there, you got to get better. Plus, some recruits we've gotten in our defensive line is going to be a lot better. There's some young guys coming in. So based on the fact that you can't stop the offense, and if the defense is just a little bit better, all you got to do is hold them to like 21 points, and we're going to outscore that. I have the Vols here at 3. Key games being, I think we go to Alabama, go to Tuscaloosa, and lose. Okay?
Okay.
But after that, we play Georgia, second to last game of the year at home, and I think we're going to beat them this year. And that is the most important game of the whole season because that decides who wins the East, probably. I mean, I don't really see any other team coming in there. So if Tennessee wins that game, they'll go to the SEC championship game, maybe a 1-loss team, get a rematch at Alabama. Now, if Tennessee loses that game again to Alabama, then you have something to talk about with like a 1-loss Georgia team and a 2-loss Tennessee team, but they beat Georgia. And that's something I don't want to talk about. But I think when a team loses early in the season to a team, it's a lot better shot they're going to beat them later. And I think they take home the SEC this year. They beat Alabama, and then they come in here at 3.
Wow. I love it, dude. I love it. I will say it's been funny listening to all of the Tennessee haters. They go on about 2 different things. One of them being, Tennessee lost all of their good players in the draft this year. They're going to suck. And then those same exact people will then start chiming in and being like, the only reason Tennessee is good is because of their gimmick offense and Josh Heupel's like a mastermind play caller. That's the only reason they're good. Well, pick your poison. Either we have really good players or we have a really good offense. Who are you going to choose?
I don't even think you have to have necessarily great players in this offense. I really don't, because if you just put guys with speed and strength out there, like it's really hard to stop basically the wide splits. But call it whatever you want, man. It was the high scoring offense in the nation last year.
Yeah, I don't care.
So call it whatever you want. I don't care. You ain't gonna stop it.
I agree. A lot of hypocrites out there. Coming in at number 3 for me. This is gonna squander your Florida State pick. I have Dabo and the boys coming in at number 3 with the Clemson Tigers. Now, listen, I know that they're kind of on a downfall, like a downward trend, but there's a couple things about Clemson that I really like and the reason that I have them in my bracket. One of them, the first one being they hired Garrett Riley, who was one of the major reasons why TCU went as far as they did last year. He's an offensive mastermind, similar to his brother Lincoln Riley. And I love him paired with this Clemson team because he gets a fresh quarterback in Cade Klubnik, who I think is extremely talented. He is a 5-star recruit, and he gets support with a top 10 defense in Clemson. I think it's a beautiful marriage of an offensive coordinator with a team who really now has all the tools to be successful. And so I think with the development of Cade Klubnik, and not to mention, I did waver with Florida State and picking this, but I think that them getting Florida State at home in week 4 was the breaking point for me, because they get Florida State at home, they win over them, they kind of cruise to the last 2 games where they have to play North Carolina and South Carolina, going to South Carolina the last game of the season. But again, that's out of conference, so it doesn't really matter. They could still lose that game, go to the ACC championship, win, and they're in great standing in terms of getting forward into the college football playoff. I think they have an easy route out of all of these teams, and they do have a lot going for them despite the downward trend that everybody thinks they're on. So really like Clemson Tigers. Not a big Dabo fan, but he's got a great team.
They always do, and they're well coached. And, you know, I know you said that like contradicts my pick, but really, like it always does, the college football playoff comes down to like one game for everybody's season.
Yeah.
And all these powerhouses play each other. So one win for one team will knock another team contender out, typically.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So I mean, I like it. I you know, it'll be one or the other. I believe that. It'll be one or the other.
Nice. All right. BJ.
Yep.
Number 2 pick. Let me hear it.
Number 2. I have a team coming out of a conference that has always had at least one team in the college football playoff. Just gave it away. So based on the full team, who they're getting back in their soft schedule, with really only one game determining, or I guess 2, because the conference championship also determining whether they make it or not, I have the Michigan Wolverines.
Wow.
They're coming back here. Look, it's really boring to watch. They've got a double-headed backfield. What's the guy's name again? Well, I know it's Blake Corum, but Edwards.
Donovan Edwards.
He's so good. He'd be a starter at any other school.
He's
but they're going to continue to dominate the line of scrimmage, time of play. And JJ McCarthy's back. I hope I didn't get right.
Yeah, JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. So same team, great offensive line, great defense. They'll walk through their schedule until the Ohio State game, and I think they will continue to win that series like they had the last 2 years.
I like it.
So I've got them in at 2.
I mean, their schedule is a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk.
So easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely logical to have Michigan in there somewhere. So I agree with that one.
I mean, the 3 easiest schedules probably in all of college football are Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State.
It's pretty funny how that works, right?
I mean, yeah, isn't that funny? But that's what I'm rolling with.
All right, man. I love it. Now my number 2, I don't think you're going to like it. I don't think you're going to like this one, but I'm a believer this year in this team for a couple different reasons. At my number 2 seed, I have the LSU Tigers.
Nasty.
Coming in hot after a strong regular season. And I have a couple reasons for this. Now, this is my like bold prediction that I'm going to write out for this year.
No, it's not. That's what all the famous people are saying. It's not bold at all.
That LSU's a 2 seed in the playoffs?
Dude, people are eating LSU's butt all preseason. You know they are.
Okay, I mean they are, but they have every reason to do so. Okay, so LSU has a elite coaching staff, especially with Brian Kelly at head coach. As much as the guy is a fraud, he is a damn good football coach. They have an amazing defense led by Harold Perkins. Mason Smith is coming back off of injury. They have Mekhi Wingo. So great defense, great front 7 on the defensive line. So that's something to be excited about. They have somebody who can actually stop these high-powered offenses. But you turn around on the offensive side of the ball, Jane Daniels is coming back. Malik Neighbors is coming back. They're only getting better. They're only developing more under this coaching staff. I think it kind of lines up for them really well. And the big question mark is going to be going to Tuscaloosa and seeing if they can pull out the win against Alabama. And I'm just taking the chance that they can. And if you look at my seeding, now you understand why I have Georgia at 4, LSU at 2. I think that Georgia goes undefeated in the regular season and they lose to LSU in the conference championship game. I think that's the kind of situation that happens. I think Georgia, doesn't really get awakened until that championship game. They lose, but they sneak themselves in with only one loss under their belt, with the win going to LSU for the SEC championship. LSU has a really strong year.
Are you saying LSU goes undefeated also?
I think they have one loss. I think they have
one
loss.
You got them beating Alabama, so I don't know who you have losing to. A&M, maybe?
I think I gave them one loss because out of their schedule, where they have to play Arkansas, they go to Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida, Texas A&M. I think they drop one of those. I think they inevitably drop one of those, or they have their first loss to Florida State. You talked about that with earlier with your pick at number 4 in Florida State. I think they could drop that. It's definitely within reason. So I think they have one slip up on the schedule.
It's first game of the season. So if they were to lose that one and win out, then no doubt they'd be ranked surprised.
And it's non-conference. So I'm giving them some cushion here. Just they have to beat Alabama. That's it. That's all they have to do, and they're cruising to the playoff.
Well, I don't buy the hype. That Florida State game's hard. They've got some difficult games. They have to go to Ole Miss, which is, I guess, kind of underrated, like when we're talking about this. But Ole Miss is Ole Miss every single year, and they'll beat some like really good teams. They got to go to Ole Miss. They got to go to Tuscaloosa, man. There's no way. There's no way. There's a better chance of me making the NBA than Alabama losing to LSU twice, 2 years in a row. There's no way. There's no way. And what I know their team's going to be better. LSU's going to be better this year because of the injuries they had. But they took till the final drive for them to beat Alabama, like final seconds.
They did it
in Death Valley. So
hey man,
hey, whatever. I don't believe the hype.
Okay, tell me why.
They've got to go through the entire gauntlet. I'm not even saying about their team. It's just they got to go through the entire gauntlet of the West of the SEC, and they started the year with Florida State. I just don't see how they go through that with one loss. But I also think that Alabama's going to beat them, and Alabama's going to represent the West. So that's how I have it, because I have Alabama at number 1.
Oh, so I see what you did here. I see why you're fighting against so hard of it.
I always like to do that, but no.
Why is Alabama number 1?
Because they're coached by Nick Saban, have the 3 best recruiting classes ever recorded that are on campus. That's what you said, right?
Yeah,
correct.
3 of the top 6 recruiting classes ever since recruiting classes ratings were tracked are currently on campus at the University of Alabama.
I don't know how anybody could doubt them. And I don't know who you have at your number 1 spot. I'm assuming it's not Alabama. And I don't know how anybody can doubt the Alabama Crimson Tide, especially when they were on an off year. And they're coming in now where I don't remember I swear they definitely made the playoff the year that they didn't with Mac Jones. They had 2 losses or 3 losses. But they're going to come back firing. And I know there's uncertainty with their quarterbacks. So, they only get to choose from 3 5-star quarterbacks. Oh, man. But I think they're going to be fine, and I think they're going to. They have a really.
I think it's 2 4-stars and a 5-star.
They have a really tough schedule, but I will say that all of those games are at home. The strength of schedule for them is really good this year. So they play Texas at home, Ole Miss at home, Tennessee at home, which I projected that Tennessee would lose that game, and then LSU at home. And I think they go through it all, and they come in undefeated. Now, here's where I'm contradicting myself now, is I'm looking at this, and if I'm picking Tennessee to beat Alabama in the conference championship game, then maybe I contradicted myself with the seeding here. But I just think that based off our rankings, Bama's going to be number 1 the whole year. And it actually could be. Maybe I think Tennessee will be until that championship game.
You there?
Yeah, we still on?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I think Tennessee would be seated lower before this ranking comes out. And I don't think it's going to be enough to surpass Alabama, even though beating them. Because they're 1 loss to Georgia. So
okay. So
maybe Michigan and Bama switch. I mean,
it's fun, me picking LSU at number 2. does not really portray what I think of this Alabama team, because I'm also not on board with Alabama being a weak team this year and buying into that. I still think they're going to be strong. I think Nick Saban is licking his chops at the fact that people are finally doubting him because he doesn't have to feed his team motivation. It's no more rat poison that he has to deal with. I think he's loving it. I think he's finally excited that there's some external motivation for his team. And so the place where I struggle is looking at this schedule. There are about 5-ish games when I look at them and I'm like, you got to drop one. Alabama doesn't skate through all of them without one loss.
I don't know. They typically do.
I just don't. So they have Texas, Ole Miss, A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, and then at Auburn. Out of those games, they're dropping one. They have to.
I mean, like, on average, yeah, probably. But Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach ever. So I just with the people with the players they have and him at the helm, I see him going all the way through this time. But something interesting, as y'all can see here, we have the two teams that we have representing the East and the West both in there. They're just different teams based off of one game.
Exactly.
That's what's crazy. That's what's crazy about it, and that's why it's so that's why college football is the best.
It is.
It's because that one game can decide everything in a placement. So it's cool that I didn't realize we had that. That's cool though.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be two teams in the SEC this year. One from the East, one from the West. Now, my number one pick, it's not that fun. I'm also going to go with the Michigan Wolverines. I suspect they'll cakewalk through the entire season. They're gonna beat Ohio State. It'll be a fun game, but I still don't think Ohio State's going to be good enough this year to clear Michigan. I think Michigan's actually a really, really strong team this year, despite their strength of schedule being so bad. It's kind of the conglomeration of both of those aspects in which I think they get the number one seed. I think J.J. McCarthy in his second year, undergoing more development. I think they are great in the trenches. They have both a top 10 offensive line and a top 10 defensive line. They have Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards coming back. They have one of the best corners in Will Johnson, and the defense is great. This is a recipe for success, especially in a conference like the Big Ten, where the bottom half is kind of weak this next year. I think they're going to beat Ohio State in the final game of the year, cakewalk through the conference championship, and be undefeated going into the college football playoff. I see very little probabilistic chance that Michigan misses out on this.
I'm with you on it.
No.
I agree.
We can't end this without hearing your final overall winning prediction. Who do you think takes home? Who do you think is a crown champion in 2023-2024 college football playoff?
The 1-4 game. I don't think Florida State has enough to beat Alabama. I don't think Florida State has enough to beat any of the three teams in here. I'm sorry. I don't think Florida State has enough to beat all three of these teams in here. Based on the conference they're in, they won't see anything like it all year. So, except for Clemson. So, I've got Alabama, rolling over Florida State there. And then the 2-3 game, unfortunately, I have to pick Michigan right here because based off of how fast Tennessee plays, it has very small room for error. And with Michigan's defense being either the best or the second best, I mean, Tennessee plays Alabama and Georgia. It's going to be one of the top three defenses they face all year. I think they're going to be able to hold them off, and then Michigan will own the time of possession by their run game. Tennessee has a pretty good run defense. I'll say that. But I think that Michigan's going to be able to have the ball for 60% of the game, 65% of the game, and they're going to pull it out against Tennessee. And then I think that Michigan does it.
Nice.
I've got Michigan doing it, man. I mean, they're always there, and I can't believe they lost to TCU last year, really. But that's who I've got. I've got the Michigan Wolverines finally taking one.
All right. As disappointed as I am to say this, I think that the current situation in my bracket, and I think the way that the year will play out, unfortunately, the Georgia Bulldogs will three-peat, and everybody will just be annoyed and sad and just ready for the next year. They're done with Kirby Smart, but I do think that one loss to LSU in the SEC championship, if that happens, they'll be more motivated than ever. They'll be pissed off. They'll meet LSU again in the playoff, and they'll handle business. And I think this defense will be well prepared for LSU. I don't see a team that currently has the second, third, fourth, and first ranked recruiting classes in the past 4 recruiting cycles on campus losing more than 1 game this year. So as unfortunate as it is, Bulldogs win again.
You're missing a big piece out of this. You're missing a big piece. The only reason the Georgia Bulldogs won 2 championships in a row is because of the legend of Stetson Bennett, which they no longer have. So you're crazy. They don't even make it because Tennessee beats them.
You're right. I hope you're right.
They make it. I know you hope
this.
I'm right.
I hope that the Bulldogs fail, but I hope that they fail because of the offensive coordinator theory. Because I don't think people appreciated Todd Monken for his ability while he was at Georgia and how much he carried that Georgia offense. It wasn't Stetson; it was Todd Monken. Don't get it twisted.
Well, I had to. I don't really believe that. I had to put that in there, though. But no, really,
I'm cropping
Todd Monken not being there is just going to.
I'm cropping that.
You better crop that.
Yeah, I'm going to crop it. I'm going to crop
the Bulldogs. Will you let me talk? Todd Monken not being there will lead the Bulldogs to not even make it to the playoff this year. It's too bad, so sad. Go bark at some other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bark at so many Georgia fans after we kick their ass in Neyland.
I'm going to crop you saying Stetson Bennett was amazing. They carried Georgia.
Good. Hit it with it.
All right, guys, we appreciate you listening. We hope you had fun. Thanks for chiming into our way too early college football playoff reveal show. We'll definitely be back with more. Talk to you guys later.
Go Bulls.